Today, we're gonna be making 3 delicious breakfast recipes. So on the channel before, we've made different kinds of really quick and easy everyday breakfast recipes, but today we're gonna be doing it a little bit differently. I wanted to make some recipes that remind me of things I like to enjoy on the weekend, or maybe something you'd like to have for brunch. They're a little bit more labor intensive, but they're really hearty and filling and really delicious. So we're gonna be making 2 savory recipes, 1 sweet one. Let's get started. For the first recipe, we're making a savory avocado hummus toast with a miso, mushroom, and kale saute. So we're gonna start off by making the hummus first. To a food processor, we're gonna add 1 1/4 cup of cooked chickpeas. We're gonna add in 1 whole ripe avocado, 2 tablespoons of tahini, which is a sesame seed paste, a tablespoon of olive oil, 2 cloves of garlic, and we're gonna squeeze in half of a lemon. Then we're gonna blend this in the food processor until it's nice and creamy. Next up, we're gonna thinly slice 3 cups or 250 grams worth of mushrooms. We're gonna mince 2 cloves of garlic and thinly slice 1 red bell pepper. This next step is an optional one, but it just adds some nice seasoning and flavor to the bread. So for this, we're gonna add to a bowl 1 tablespoon of olive oil, half of a teaspoon each of dried chives, dried parsley, and ground cumin, as well as a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Then give this a mix, and we're gonna brush it over the bread of your choice. Here I'm using some pita bread, but you could also use naan or tortillas, whatever you'd like. Now to a pan on high heat, we're gonna heat up that bread. First with the seasoned side down until it starts to get nice and crispy and aromatic. Then flip it over, toast the other side for a couple minutes, and swap it for a new bread. When it's all done, we're gonna set it to the side, and then to the same pan, we're gonna add a little bit of oil and the mushrooms. Saute this until the mushrooms start to release some of their liquid. Then we're going to add the minced garlic. You're gonna need to keep cooking until most of the moisture from the mushrooms has evaporated. It can take about 5 or 8 minutes or so. And then at that point, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of onion powder and 3 cups of thinly sliced kale, and saute this until the kale starts to wilt. Now to a small bowl, we're gonna add a teaspoon of miso paste and a little splash of boiling water, and give this a mix until the miso dissolves. Then pour this over the wilted kale and give it a mix. If you don't have miso paste, you can just skip this step or add a small splash of soy sauce, and when it's ready, you can remove it from the heat. To assemble your breakfast, all you've got to do is top the seasoned bread with a generous serving of the avocado hummus, spread it out nice and evenly, and then we're going to add some thinly sliced bell pepper on top, followed by a generous few scoops of that mushroom and kale mix, a little pinch of salt, maybe even a bit of freshly squeezed lemon if that's your thing, and finally a generous sprinkle of roasted sunflower seeds. If you like avocado toast or hummus toast, then this takes it to the next level. It's wholesome, filling, nourishing, super delicious. It is a breakfast or lunch that's best enjoyed right away, but each component you can also make ahead of time and store it separately in an airtight container. Next up, we're gonna be making some super wholesome, speedy oatmeal pancakes. So to a food processor, we're gonna add 2 cups of regular old-fashioned rolled oats. We're gonna blend it until you achieve this flour-like consistency, and then we're gonna add this to a bowl along with 1 cup of unsweetened plant-based milk, 1/3 of a cup of applesauce, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, a tablespoon of melted coconut oil, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, and a teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, and half of a teaspoon of salt. Then we're gonna mix it all until it's nice and well combined. Now to a preheated frying pan, we're gonna add a little bit of oil, and then we're gonna spoon on top 1/4 of a cup of the batter, and then spread it out using the back of a spoon until you create these nice little circular disc shapes. Then we're gonna let it sit until the top starts to bubble and the sides are gonna start to firm up, which is gonna take about 2 to 3 minutes. Then we're gonna give it a flip. Let the other side cook as well for another 2 to 3 minutes before removing it from the heat. When it's all done, you can stack these pancakes on top of one another and then top it with some of your favorites. Here, I stacked it all on one plate just because it looks a bit more cinematic, but this is 8 pancakes in total, so it's easily enough for 2 people. Here we're using some coconut yogurt, my favorite little fruit gems, pomegranate seeds, a little sprinkle of crushed pistachios, a mint leaf just for presentation, and a drizzle of maple syrup. Pancakes on the weekend have become a bit of a ritual for us. We usually make the buckwheat ones that we've shared with you before, but it's really nice to change it up every once in a while. The best part is always the toppings, whether it's the ones that we shared here or something like banana or nut butter or chocolate spread or some fresh or stewed berries. And one more thing about these pancakes, you can batch make them in advance, and once it's cooled, just put it in an airtight container and then freeze it for later. It's a quick breakfast that you can enjoy later and just take it with you on the road if you need to. For the last recipe, we're making some savory potato hash cakes with marinated baked tempeh and some garlicky tomatoes. It does take some love and time to make, but it's well worth the effort, I think. So to begin, we're gonna cut a 250-gram block of tempeh into really thin slices, about 2 millimeters thick. And then to a shallow dish, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of sodium-reduced soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and a tablespoon of sriracha hot sauce, or you can use another hot sauce that you'd like. Then give it a mix before you add the tempeh to it. And you're gonna wanna make sure you mix it all really nicely until each tempeh strip is coated in the sauce. Then we're gonna let it sit and marinate for at least 20 minutes. Now while the tempeh is marinating, we're gonna shred 2 medium potatoes. I like to keep the skin on for extra fiber. Here I'm using the shredding feature of our food processor, but you can also use a grater here if you'd like. Then we're gonna place the shredded potato in a large bowl and fill it with some cold water and let it soak for a bit while we prepare the rest of the hash. Soaking just helps to remove the starch so that the hash isn't gonna be as gummy and it's gonna crisp up a lot more nicely. At this point, we're gonna give the tempeh just a little bit of a mix to recoat it, and then back to the food processor, we're gonna grate 1 small onion as well as 1 large carrot, and then we're gonna add this to a large bowl, along with 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of olive oil, a teaspoon each of ground cumin and ground garlic powder, and half a teaspoon of salt, as well as some freshly cracked black pepper. By now we can drain the water from the potatoes, and then we're gonna place it on a clean, dry cloth and squeeze it to get rid of any excess water. Then we're gonna add this to the onion and carrot mixture and stir everything to combine. Go ahead and get in there with your hands too to mix it up if you'd like. Then using a 1/2 cup measure, we're gonna scoop the potato mixture and place it onto a parchment-lined baking tray. We're gonna gently press it into flat cakes using your hands. They're gonna be about 1/2 centimeter thick, and gently round the corners as well as you go along. Altogether, this should make about 6 cakes in total. And then on another parchment-lined baking tray, we're going to place the tempeh in a single layer, reserving any leftover marinade for now. Then we're gonna put both of these trays in the oven at 390 Fahrenheit or 200 Celsius for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna stop to give them both a flip. With the tempeh, once you've flipped it, you're gonna use any of that leftover marinade to drizzle on the other side. And for the hash cakes, they're still gonna be rather moist, so you're gonna wanna flip it with care and then bake them both again for about 10 to 15 minutes or until the edges are golden and crispy. The tempeh should finish baking before the cakes if you did cut them really thin like we did. Now while the potatoes and tempeh are baking, we're gonna heat a medium pan on medium-high heat with a bit of oil, and we're gonna add 1 cup of cherry tomatoes and cook this for a couple of minutes. When the skin starts to pop, we're gonna add 2 cloves of crushed garlic, and we're gonna cook it until it's fragrant and golden, which will take about 3 minutes. Then we're gonna remove this from the pan, just set it aside, and returning that same pan to the heat, we're gonna add 3 large handfuls of spinach. Turn it often until the spinach softens, and then we're gonna remove it from the heat once it's fully wilted. Now it's time to serve. So first up, we're gonna use the potato cakes as the base, and we're gonna top it with a few slices of that baked marinated tempeh. Then we're gonna add on top some of the wilted spinach and some of the blistered garlicky tomatoes, and sprinkle on top a little bit of sea salt here too. As another option, if you want to skip making the tempeh altogether to speed things up, you can also top the hash cakes with some avocado slices and a bit of sriracha hot sauce. It is a labor of love, this recipe. Definitely one to make on the weekend when you've got a bit more time in the morning to spare. It is a lovely profile of flavors, from crunchy and salty to moist and garlicky. It's one of those meals that if it were served at a restaurant, I'd be going back to order it again and again. I hope you guys enjoyed the recipes that we shared with you today. If you make any of them, tag us on Instagram so that we can see, and the full breakdown, as always, is on the blog. Links are in the description box below. And just a heads up that recipe ebook that we created, that was gonna be around for a limited time, people have been asking us, when is it around until the end of this month, so until the end of January. So if you or anyone you know is trying out Veganuary for this month and you're looking for some recipe ideas or inspiration, there's over 200 recipes in there, plus 20 exclusive recipes you won't find anywhere else, so that link is in the description box below if you want to check it out. Thanks a lot for watching. Pickle Blends signing off, and we'll see you in the next video.